listen, at the end of the day, we've done it time and time again. You know, Golovkin's got 2 arms and 2 legs. Kell Brook's got 2 arms and 2 legs. They've been doing it all their life, you know, at a very good level. So, you know, we've got a plan. It's like any other fight for me. You know, it's a big fight for the fans. You know, it's probably just another fight for Golovkin. It's another fight for Kell. Because when you've been doing it all your life, it's like getting up in the morning, getting into your car and driving to work. It's what you do. For the people outside of boxing, you know, in normal jobs and normal walks of life, yeah, it's a big event. But this is what they do for a job. You know, they're well versed in doing it. So you put it into perspective for what it is. And, you know, it's a challenge and they both want to win. You know, get into that ring on the night. The fans are screaming, it's a massive atmosphere, the adrenaline's flowing, it's a different level. You know, like when Kell boxed in America and Sean Porter, the adrenaline was flowing, you know, his eyes were lit up, and afterwards he went, I could have done that again. That's how much energy he had, and these are the type of fights what bring you energy. And, you know, realistically for the last 2 years, he beat Sean Porter, he's been treading water, Kell Brook, he hasn't had the big fights. You know, we have conversations where he said, you know, I thought when I became world champion, the big fights would just roll one after the other. You know, I thought I'd be fighting Thurman, Garcia, all these names just be rolling up to fight me, but they never came. Now, you know, he won it at, you know, he's 30 years old now, so he's been champion 2 years in a couple of weeks or whatever. So, you know, the big career-defining fights haven't happened for him. You know, it's no good these fights coming along when he's 32 and 33 and 34. Maybe when he's past his best. He needs the fights now when he's at the peak of his, you know, peak of his fitness, peak of his, you know, his level. You know, when he's at the point where he wants to be in big fights. You know, he's 30 years old. He's reaching his peak. So, you know, if he doesn't get the fights now, when is he going to get the fights? So he's at a point now where he's got to take the fights what come. Otherwise, he's going to miss the boat.
Kell mentioned there that he has struggled at times for motivation when he's fighting the mandatory challenges. Maybe they don't get his juices flowing as much as they might. Now, with that in mind, how much better do you think Kell Brook's going to be when he's in with someone like Gennady Golovkin, when he's got, as you mentioned up there, that kind of tinge of fear?
The difference is, you know, he has to train hard, you know, for the mandatories, the Jojo Dans, the Beziers. You know, he was in camp for Bezier for about 8 months because of, you know, the fights falling through with Chavez and everything else. He had to keep on track, and then he's got to make weight. So he can motivate himself enough. That's the hard part. The training, the dieting is the hard part. The fighting's the easy bit, and that's why the Jojo Dan lasted 4 rounds and Bezier lasted 2. With this fight, you know, he's always motivated to train. He's had to motivate himself to train for the, you know, so-called easy opponents. These type of fights, you know, there's a reason why you get up in the morning, because at the end of the, you know, end of the tunnel is Triple G, and you have to have the fear. It's not the fear that you're scared to fight. It's the fear of, you know, probably losing, your unbeaten record, not achieving what you want to achieve, and that is a massive motivation. You know, he's never gone into a fight. You know, with the Sean Porter, he had the twinkle in his eye because he knew he was up against it. He was going to America. You know, Sean Porter was on a roll. You know, we got Jojo Dan, Frankie Gavin, Kevin Bezier. You know, Kell could have probably beat those guys with his eyes closed, but he still had to do the work. He didn't go in and half prepare for those guys, because if he did, the fights would have lasted 12 rounds. He went in and put 100% preparation in and finished the guys off, you know, 4 rounds, 6 rounds and 2 rounds. And that's what you should be doing, those type of guys. Now, not many people are giving Kell a chance against Golovkin because he's a middleweight, Kell's coming up. But as today we've seen him on stage, there's not much difference in size. You know, they're both very good boxers, they're both unbeaten. You know, Kell Brook hates to lose. If he thought he was going to lose this fight, he wouldn't have taken the fight. And he wants to challenge himself. And it's the fear, it's the buzz that you get when you step into these situations. What motivates you, and that's what's motivating Kell Brook.
Just one final one. Kell said there that he thinks that this could go down, if he wins, as the #1 upset in British boxing history. Bigger than Randolph Turpin against Sugar Ray Robinson, you know, bigger than John H. Tracy, bigger than Lloyd Honeyghan. Would you agree with that? Do you think it would be the #1 win in British boxing history?
That's what you've got to say. Yeah, definitely got to say that, because, you know, at the minute nobody's touching Golovkin. You know, 35 fights, is it? And nobody's touched him. So it's got to be the biggest win.